We say hello to Bob Costas, who joins us for his thoughts on the passing of Sy Berger. And Bob, the reason many of us are in this building are because of the little rectangular images that Sy Berger brought us as kids. It's part of the reason we fell in love with baseball.
Yeah, they were part of it, no question about it. You know, I guess all sports have this, but baseball, I think, has it to the greatest extent because of the day-in, day-out nature of the game and the fact that there's a more leisurely pace. There are certain people who are just valued citizens of the game. They may or may not have been players. There are some players who remain around afterwards, and they're citizens of the game, the way Don Zimmer was, the way Buck O'Neill was, the way our own Jim Cott is a great citizen of the game. Sy Berger was a citizen of the game. He was part of the fabric of it. You felt, and this is a quaint word in 2014 going on 15, you don't hear very much anymore, you felt fondness for a guy like Sy Berger and for the role that he played in baseball. And as you said, Matt, way before Topps really popularized it, there were all those cards off the backs of cigarette packs sometimes at the turn of the century, a Honus Wagner card that may be worth tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. There was the Bowman series, the Donruss series. There have been series in more recent years. But for a couple of generations of kids, Topps baseball cards were really what defined it. Like Harold said, you didn't purchase it. When I was a kid, it cost a nickel. You got a nickel. You got 5 cards for a nickel and a chalky piece of rectangular gum, which if you dropped it on the sidewalk, shattered like a pane of glass, and which somehow had this film which was permanently affixed to whatever card was face up against it. So if they did an archaeological dig, like where they uncover a T-Rex or a raptor somewhere in Colorado or in Venezuela, if you did a similar archaeological dig a million years from now and you uncovered a Willie Tasby that happened to have that piece of gum against it, that film would still be against Willie Tasby's face. So we associated it with that, and we didn't purchase these cards thinking, oh, boy, someday they'll accrue in value and we'll sell them or we'll keep them in mint condition. No, like Harold said, you put them on the spoke of your bike. It made a really cool sound as you pedaled around the neighborhood. You tried to convince some rube that you could give him 2 Norm Seaburns and 4 Hector Lopez's for a Hank Aaron, and maybe he'd go along with it. You flipped them. We played a game called Knock-a-Lena, Lena being kind of New Yorkese for leaner, and you would take the one card and you'd put it up against the base of a wall. And then you'd back off, depending on your skill level, and you'd scale other cards at it, trying to clip it and make it fall off the wall. And if it did, then you collected whatever was in the pot, however many shots had been missed. Or if you were really daring, you'd say to the kid next to you.
By the way, that sounds like a great hot stove bit.
Oh, it's a tremendous bit. Are you kidding me? I can remember times. Now, there were variations, right? Let's say you clipped the Eli Gerba with your Pumpsy Green, but somehow the Pumpsy Green stayed up against the wall even though the Gerba went down. Now the game continues, and sometimes the pot, you'd see kids start to sweat. Like a 9-year-old kid, he'd have half of his collection there on the floor. Everything was riding. It was like a real gambler that should go to Gamblers Anonymous because the mortgage was riding on it. The kid's entire box of cards could go down if somehow Bob Perky knocked Billy Bruton off his perch.
I love this idea.
So,
we're doing this.
Oh, we're going to do it. I can just see little Bob Costas running this game, by the way. That did not fall.
Yeah.
My card is still up
Taking
there.
side action.
And let me tell you, Harold, I was good at it. I was really, really good at it.
You know, a lot of us, Bob, have kind of lamented the demise of the baseball card world, and you could assign blame to electronic media, how easy it is for kids just to play around with their tablets. The same way you could, lament the demise of kids that actually read books. Mm-hmm. But in my mind, the baseball card industry kind of cannibalized itself some 25-ish years ago when there were too many boutique brands and there was too much product out there. We lost the value of how cool Topps baseball cards were.
Right, because Topps baseball cards were it. And in fact, although you sneered at it when you got it, it seemed like a wasted card in the pack. You would always get a checklist. You know, there would always be a checklist in every third or fourth pack, and that let you check to see if you'd gotten every single player. And I remember one year somehow I had multiple Willie Mazes, I had multiple Al Kalines and Mickey Mantles, but I couldn't get Norm Seaburn. So I was forced, at some point, I was forced to make a crazy deal. Like I had to give up Rocky Colavito and Don Drysdale just to get Norm Seaburn to complete the checklist. But Topps was the official one. It was the one that mattered. And when they came out, when the season started, like toward the end of spring training, and these cards came out, you had to be part of that era. In 1959, 1960, 61, you'd head to the candy store or wherever they would sell them. You could get an entire box. You could get 20 packs for $1 or a single pack for a nickel. And then you'd start comparing them. And on a rainy day, you'd start organizing them by position, by team, by league, by who was your favorites, by seniority. And then you'd start comparing them with your buddy's collection of cards. And then you had them all organized in a shoebox. And then you went away to college, and your mother threw them away when she cleaned out the closet.